It was the night before Christmas, a whirlwind of festive hustle and bustle at the North Pole. Elves with tiny bells on their hats were wrapping presents with furious speed, their nimble fingers tying bows and ribbons in a colorful blur. The reindeer, their coats gleaming under the workshop lights, were polishing their hooves until they shone like mirrors, getting ready for the big flight. And Santa's sleigh, oh, it was a magnificent sight. Stacked so high with gifts it looked like a mountain of dreams ready to be delivered to children all over the world. Santa Claus, in the middle of it all, let out a massive yawn, his big white beard wobbling. Phew! I really need a little break, he murmured to himself, his shoulders slumping just a tiny bit. He looked around at the happy chaos and decided a quick trip to the bathroom was just what he needed to recharge. He tiptoed as quietly as a big man in boots could. Making his way through piles of toys and mountains of wrapping paper, he reached the bathroom door, his hand on the knob, a sigh of relief almost escaping his lips. But just as he turned it, the door flew open and in trotted Rudolph, his red nose glowing brightly, holding a steaming mug of hot cocoa. "Santa, you need a drink! You look so tired!" Rudolph exclaimed, his voice full of concern. Santa looked at the sweet, warm mug and then at Rudolph's earnest face. He couldn't say no. "Oh, okay," Santa said, forcing a smile. He took the mug and sipped the rich, chocolatey drink. It was delicious, but it wasn't quite the break he was looking for. Once the mug was empty, he handed it back to Rudolph with a pat on the head and tried again. He tiptoed back towards the bathroom, moving a little faster this time, his eyes fixed on the door. He was so close. But just as he reached for the handle for the second time, a tiny elf named Tinsel zoomed past him, balancing a huge tray laden with a tall glass of milk and a plate of freshly baked gingerbread cookies. "Santa, you need energy for the long sleigh ride," Tinsel chirped, her little voice full of cheer. Santa's shoulders slumped again. "Okay, just one cookie," he chuckled, his hand reaching for a gingerbread man. The cookie was warm and spicy, and the milk was cold and refreshing, but his bladder was starting to feel rather full. He finished his snack, thanked Tinsel, and, with a determined sigh, made his third attempt. He thought to himself, this time I'll finally get to go." He moved with the stealth of a ninja, dodging a toy train and leaping over a roll of wrapping paper. He was mere inches from the door when another elf, this one named Sparkle, appeared as if by magic, holding a giant, frothy glass of eggnog. "Santa, don't forget your vitamins," Sparkle declared, holding the glass up high. Santa couldn't help but laugh, a deep, rumbling sound that shook his belly. "Oh my goodness! Maybe I'll never get to go." He took the eggnog, the creamy, spiced drink filling him up even more. By now, the word must have gotten out that Santa needed refreshments. The other reindeer, not wanting to be outdone by Rudolph, trotted by in a line, each carrying a little juice box with a straw. "Here, Santa, you'll need this for hydration," they called out in unison. Santa looked at the line of reindeer, the juice boxes, and the growing collection of empty mugs and glasses around him. He waved his hands in surrender. Oh my goodness! I just need a minute, everyone. Just one little minute." But it was too late. Every time he even looked in the direction of the bathroom, some well-meaning elf or reindeer would appear with another drink. There was more cocoa, more milk, more juice, more eggnog, even some sparkling apple cider. Santa found himself in a rather tricky situation. With a drink in each hand and more being offered every second, he started to feel a little wobbly. To keep from spilling, he began to dance. A little jig here, A little shuffle there, spinning in circles, juggling cups and mugs like a circus performer. The elves and reindeer thought it was a wonderful new pre-flight dance and started clapping along. Santa just giggled, a frantic, high-pitched giggle that was very unusual for him. Ho ho hee hee ho! Finally, in a moment of brilliant desperation, Santa had an idea. He stopped his frantic dance, held up his hands to quiet the cheering crowd, and leaned in to whisper conspiratorially. "My dear friends," he said, his voice barely audible, "just 5 minutes, please." A top-secret mission. The elves and reindeer, intrigued by the idea of a secret mission, all nodded in solemn agreement and backed away, giving him a clear path. Santa didn't waste a second. He ran to the bathroom, flung the door open, slipped inside, and locked it securely behind him. And then, the sound of pure relief. At last, Santa sat down. Feeling the tension drain away, he felt relieved, relaxed, and incredibly happy. A few minutes later, he cautiously peeked out the door. The coast was clear. He whispered to the waiting elves and reindeer, "Merry Christmas." And remember, sometimes even Santa needs a tiny break. The elves giggled, their little bells jingling softly. The reindeer let out happy whinnies. And Santa himself, feeling 100 times better, let out his famous, jolly, belly-shaking laugh. Ho! 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 And that Christmas Eve, as Santa flew across the starlit sky, he delivered all the gifts with his usual magical twinkle, and maybe, just maybe, with a tiny little extra skip in his step. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more fun stories.